Hey, this is Wileen Benson, and you are on the Daily Gratitude Call, where we start every day in gratitude. Gratitude is the highest energy state that we can be in. It creates a frequency of positive vibration that attracts positive experiences into our lives. Hey everybody, this is Wileen Benson. This is our Daily Gratitude Call. Thank you for joining us today. Look forward to what we get to discover today. Today's call is going to be a little bit shorter. We had a lot longer in our rounds of gratitude that we did live, and we are still going to finish up our call around a quarter to, or maybe 10 to at the latest. So those of you who may have to drop off a little bit early, that's okay. But we're going to keep it to our finishing up at about our regular time. Thanks everybody for what has been shared. I just feel like I've been so blessed for being here live on the call with the things that have been shared. A couple of you that are here live have had some situations. One had an eye surgery, another one's mother fell down the stairs. And, I know all of us have our things that we're dealing with on a daily basis. And I just feel like such a beautiful space has been created for us to seek God's will and to love and accept. Laura, who's on the call today, talks about love, accept, expand, that it comes in that order. We love it, we accept it, and then from that acceptance, that gratitude for it, we're able to expand. And so I'm just really grateful for the thoughts that have been shared and the wonderful space of gratitude in all circumstances that's been created. If you've never been on the Gratitude Call Live, I encourage you to make the effort to get up and get on. Sometimes I know it is a conflict with getting kids off to school or work or whatever, 7 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. But if you ever do have an opportunity to get on live, it's awesome. There's just a wonderful community within the community of our Facebook group, and those who listen on the podcast. You are definitely part of our community. There's like this little mini community inside the live call that I'm just super grateful for. Today, we're going to do a private silent meditation on seeking God's will for me. And we'll just see what comes up. I know it's going to be an amazing call. And again, just appreciate everybody that has shared already. So 90-second private silent meditation on gratitude for seeking God's will for me. And that begins now. All right. I first of all, just my mind went to my inspired shortcuts, and just so grateful that the inspired shortcuts that I receive are so simple. and doable, and that the resources are always provided to me. And then my thoughts went to the prodigal son, that story in the Bible where the son asked for his inheritance from his father early and said, I'm going to go out and make my way in the world. And, just, I want to be free to use my inheritance now instead of waiting, until his father had passed away. And so he went out, and instead of utilizing that money wisely, he spent it on the ways of the world that caused him to go into deep poverty and return with his head down to his father, knowing that he had squandered everything that he had been given. But his father received him and welcomed him back with celebration. But my thoughts went to the son, the brother who had stayed with the father and continued to help on the farm and everything, and was waiting, for his father to pass away before he received his inheritance. And he was a little indignant that his brother had gone and squandered the inheritance and come back with nothing, less than nothing. And just in that moment, I put myself in the place of the prodigal son, and Jesus Christ as my brother, returning to him. And that to me would be just not a really good feeling, to be able to go back to my father and to be able to give, and to have to give a report that I had squandered the inheritance that he had given me, and the disappointment that my brother would express in me. And it just, I know that Christ would never do that, but at the same time, it put me in, it just kind of helped me to put myself in a different place, that I do have access to the resources that all the resources that my father has, and that I can, I know that I have the power to be able to return with honor, to return everything that he has given me plus more, and to be received back with open arms, and be able to hold my head up high. And that's my desire, my wish. And that's why I seek God's will every day. Robert.
I think God's will is hidden very well. Mm-hmm. It's only through an open mind and willingness to even learn as a little child that you would even come close to understanding what you go through in life has a higher potential to heal and affect more people than what you yourself would have gone through. And I think about writing my book. If I wasn't abused to the level that I was abused at, I wouldn't have a story. Mm-hmm. And not because the story is any different than anybody else's story, because everybody's story is extremely important. It becomes, I become, as one person said, your story isn't unusual. What's unusual about your story is that you're telling it. Mm-hmm. And so for me to not only go through and have an understanding of why I am attracted to the same sex from an abusive mother, I didn't want anything to do with women, and realizing that was a strength, because although it appeared perhaps to the world a weakness, to me was a strength beyond my wildest understanding. And because I have stayed true to God and my wife, in spite of the challenges of a pending divorce, my attitude is it will go away and we will flourish.
Beautiful. That's wonderful, Robert. I want to mention you're right that God's will is hidden. It's something that we have to seek every day. That's, seeking God's will for me. It really is a seek. It's a seek and find. But He has promised us that if we knock, it'll be open to us. If we seek, we will find it. And there's some really great clues, because there are counterfeits in everything. There's opposition in all things. If we can see the reflection, then we can turn around and see the real. If we can see the shadow, we can turn around and see the light.
If we can inhale strength and exhale fear.
Beautiful. Thank you. Exactly.
Thank you.
Kathy, and then Deepti.
So this was really, really powerful to me as I was thinking about seeking God's will for me, and the thoughts and scriptures that were coming to mind. Seek ye first his kingdom, and his work and his glory is to bring to pass the eternal salvation of man, and bringing people to Christ and serving. And the scripture, when ye have done it unto the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Last night, my brother and I drove down to Ogden to a business meeting, which was really awesome. But after the meeting, there were some of us that hung around and were talking to the leaders, and it was really powerful to me how he presented his idea of what our business is all about. And it's not just, a super app. It's not just bringing people, but he said, it's kind of God's holy work. If you see whatever you're doing as his work to bring people to him, it's like this, what we do is really all about getting people free so that they have the time to do their life's purpose. And if that purpose is to bring people to Christ, and we see it that way, it was just really beautiful, talking about all of the things that that are going on in the world, to find something that can bring you peace and knowing that you're on the right track so just seeking God's will for me, seeking to know that at the end of the day, if my gifts and talents are being used to serve others and building his kingdom, and this call is part of that, recognizing limiting beliefs, but more importantly, choosing those things that are the next step in my progress toward that ultimate goal of how can I serve his children best.
Beautiful. I think a lot of times, and you've even mentioned, like, get yourself free so that you can serve in your purpose. But basically what you're telling me is that you have found a purpose within your job. So, within the career choice that you have. And I believe that that's absolutely true, that whatever you're doing, there is a way that you can bring people to the truth, that you can uplift, that you can help people to find, their highest truth, to live in accordance with their divine intelligence, wherever you're at, whether it's a job that in the past has just looked like just punch the time clock, get your money, go home. You can actually show up to that job in a way that is uplifting others, you can serve in your purpose wherever you are.
Right.
Thanks, Kathy. Deepti.
So I think you didn't come here to figure it all out by your own self, because God has that covered. You didn't come here to actually effort, because God can guide you. And you didn't come here to struggle. The only reason you are struggling is because you are living a life that is disconnected from God. So I think after air, water, oxygen, clothing, food, shelter, like the basic necessities of life, I think the most important thing in life is to be in alignment with God's will. Because once you get in alignment, things just start clicking for you. Life is flowing. Life is easy. Life is not meant to be a struggle. That's what
Thank you. 100% agree, Deepti. I love that idea. After the basic necessities, which God provides, then seeking God's will for what's next is the most important thing. I love that.
Yes, because the other things will automatically click for you and line up for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Betsy, and then Lara. Yeah, Betsy, and then Lara, and then Kathy again.
Thank you. So when I think about seeking God's will for me, I know that I have just prayed fervently and fervently through the years of how can I serve others, and I was very other focused, which is a beautiful selfless way to be. And when I shifted it more to how can I be a better instrument in His hands,
Mhm.
and with the discussion today about seeking, seeing with our eyes, I think when we seek. Truly, when we're seeking the Lord, we seek with our heart, with our spirits, and recognize with our spirits. Some people might call it a gut instinct or just the
Mhm.
feeling or goosebumps or different things, but the recognizing of what He has intended for me. And kind of like when you see an old friend and you just have this like beautiful light shine over you and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you, and this big hug. And I mean, when we find what we're seeking and when He provides those beautiful answers to us for our confirmations or next steps, it's this beautiful recognition, confirmation from our seeking.
Oh, beautiful. I love also how you mentioned about, seeing with your eyes. A lot of times when we're seeking, we are seeking from this cerebral space, where we're trying to like read everything that we can read or, watch YouTube videos or whatever, to seek what's next. But then if we start to use all of our faculties, all of our senses beyond just the five physical senses, feeling with our hearts, feeling with our spirits, sensing, having that gift of discernment, those types of things, we can learn so much more. We can see so much better. Thank you. Laura.
I was thinking about with God's will for my life, one of the things that I've struggled with over the years is why would God will that me or anyone as a small child would experience so much pain and trauma? And it's a classic question, it's something that we have to grapple with. We can't just shove it away, even though we don't want to. I have never wanted to think about it. I know that in order for me to be fully healed, I have to come to an understanding of that. And it's a process, and it comes up, when there's something new that I'm working with, it comes up again, and then I'll work through it, and again, I have to work through it. But what came to me today was that pain itself is an experience that only happens when we resist what is happening around us. So, and it's like electricity, if somebody gets struck by lightning and they're not grounded, right,
Mm-hmm.
then it just flows right through them, and they're not harmed. And
Mm-hmm.
and so and like, if I touch an electrical wire, the birds are fine. Why? Because they're not grounded. They don't ground the experience, right? And so in these painful moments, what I need to do in this moment is reflect back on that time and unground it. That these old memories or, anything that's come about, it's only painful because I continue to ground it in meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So the grounding process is part of meaning. And it's only painful because I continue to ground it in meaning. And so letting that go and even no matter what's happening, like I've been reflecting on that airplane experience, where I had, I was stuck in this tin can, right? And with a bunch of really nice people, but boy, there was stuff going on, right? We had 2 screaming kids behind me in one flight. And the other ones were tired and decided to close the windows and put their seats back. And I'm like in this mask, dying of claustrophobia. It was just like, okay, here we are, And but I didn't resist the experiences. I just let them flow through me, and therefore they were not painful. And in fact, I was able to be a light and a joy to the people around me, and they were a light and a joy to me. So, so that's what I wanted to share about, when God wills things that seem, that are like, why in the world would he want that? you know, that's part of it.
Beautiful.
Part of the answer.
Yeah. And I know this could be a total like science discussion that would prove spiritual things. And, but I want to just share a couple quick things and then we'll have, allow Kathy, I think, had something else that she wanted to share, and then we'll move on to her permission process. But I just wanted to kind of put different words to it to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, and also to kind of add a little piece for myself, that when you're the way that you're talking about grounding, because when we meditate, we breathe, we get grounded, right? And when we're talking about that kind of grounding, it's being centered in truth, centered in God, centered in nature, being one with nature and all of God's creation, centered in God's will, grounding ourselves in God's will, and which is all encompassing, all powerful, all, knowing. And what you're talking about is grounding yourself as in like a pilot is grounded, can't fly anymore. Like,
well, I'm really talking, it's really just using this electrical term, which we call it grounding, but
grounding is like a physical, it's like grounding yourself in creating a physical decision about something. Yes.
Yeah. And it's rooting it in our consciousness through our meaning.
Yes.
So when we attach meaning to something that is, negative, right? When we resist it, when we attach resistance to it, when we push it away, that's when the pain happens.
Awesome. Yes. I wanted to clarify that. Yep.
Yeah, no, I
totally.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. So, being grounded in God is, everything is, flowing. So wonderful. Kathy, you had something.
Yeah, just real quick. I love this discussion because what was really coming up was seeking God's will to do his will, how seeking leads to choosing and doing, and the idea of being centered in God with an eye single to his glory and attaching meaning that he would have us do. One of the conversations that we had last night was about faith, and faith that till you make it, and how, and I love how you talked about the shadow and the light and turning to the light, because in this discussion about faith, he brought out, you can have faith in the wrong things and lead your life down the wrong path. Faith is faith, but faith in the right things, faith in seeking God's will, faith in God, faith in Christ. And it's just a really beautiful thing, that seeking the right things and choosing to do what we need to do and choosing to have those next inspired steps, knowing that they are inspired in the right area.
Yeah, absolutely. So true faith when it's grounded in God's will, we can't have any kind of a meaning attached. We have no idea where we're being led. So every aspect of that journey of, taking God as our partner and seeking his will and moving step by step as we're instructed, as we're inspired, as we get these inspired shortcuts, that's really what faith is looking to God in every little thing. Not, it's like if you looked down, you would not even be standing on the ground. There wouldn't be any grounding, as far as like a physical grounding. I haven't made a decision about anything yet because I'm still in faith. I have no idea what's coming. Beautiful. Lots of things going on in the chat here. I'm not going to take the time to read those, but I encourage those who are here live to go ahead and read those if you haven't noticed. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath. And I invite us all to really get into this space of seeking God's will. And part of that is to allow yourself to let go of anything that you already currently know, that you think you know, going into these other senses beyond the physical, listening with your heart, listening with your spirit, and also even allowing yourself to rise above the physical, to rise above the earth. As you're sitting in your chair, maybe even notice that your body is feeling, that you're feeling lighter than your body, and that divine intelligence is, just allow yourself to believe and trust that divine intelligence has the power to connect with God on his level above the earth, being grounded only in his knowledge, his creations, his omnipotence, knowing the truth of that, and that all other things are changeable. Take one more deep breath. And as Betsy mentioned before, sometimes we ask how we can serve others, what we can do to best serve others, and that there is definitely a place for that. Right now in this moment, I invite us to do as she has suggested. What is the one most important thing that I can do today to become more of an instrument, to be an extension of thy will? What is the one thing I can do to better become an instrument in thy hands? And in this energy of seeking God's will, I invite you to allow yourself to be open to receive, and listening also for any fear-based thoughts or emotions that are coming up to you, for you, as you are being standing naked before God without the covering of your physical body that sometimes we use as a protection, completely vulnerable, completely open, completely in faith, knowing that as we seek God's will, we don't know what that answer is going to be, but trusting that he will make us enough to be able to follow through with that will. So again, that question, what is the one most important thing that I could do today that would help me become more of an instrument in thy hands? And just if any limiting beliefs are coming up for you, notice those, write them down, and also examine the cost of those limiting beliefs. And in a moment, we'll be creating some new beliefs to replace those. But right now, being really present with God. And what do you need to change about you that will help you be more, that he can trust you to do his will? One more deep breath. Expressing gratitude for this new information of the one thing that you can change within yourself to become more of an instrument, to become more capable of doing the will that you seek from him. And then also let's take a moment and address those limiting beliefs that came up. And the cost of holding on to those limiting beliefs. What effect will that have on your ability to seek God's will and fulfill his will? And if you don't like that cost, now is the time for you to make a choice. You can keep that limiting belief, or you can choose to give yourself permission to choose a new belief. And if you're willing to give yourself permission to choose a new belief, say yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. And
Yes.
awesome.
Hard to unmute.
Thank you.
Yes.
So now it's time to choose some new beliefs. What new beliefs will allow you to be in that space of seeking God's will on a daily basis, receiving his will and acting on his will? What new beliefs will replace that old limiting belief and empower you to be able to follow through with that instruction that you're receiving? And embody those new beliefs. Instead of covering yourself with a body, kind of hiding your divine spirit inside of a body, allow these new beliefs to empower you that your spirit body is just as tangible, that these new beliefs are actually giving you sort of like a covering around your divine spirit, but that this covering that you have of new beliefs is permeable, that you can move in and out of this spirit realm very quickly and easily. And the portal is these new beliefs. And then anytime you can be here and feel safe and protected, because in God's realm, everything, you are inherently safe. There's nothing that he will ask you to do that will produce fear. Only the limiting beliefs will produce fear. And these new beliefs allow you to move in and out of God's realm completely safe, vulnerable, because all is light, all is truth, all is joy. That's the only thing that exists in this place where you're at. Take one more deep breath and just know that you have been empowered to go forth and do whatever it is that you've received today. I invite you to come back to the present and re-enter your body, and noticing as you're re-entering your body, anything within your body that is out of alignment with this person that you were, and you're standing in God's presence. And just take a deep breath in and exhale anything that is out of alignment, or take note of it so that you can begin working on those things that are out of alignment with this, between the spirit body and the physical body. I thank you for being here on the call today. We will not take time to do shares at the end, but I do want to give everyone an invitation to meet with me for 15 minutes if there's anything that is still lingering that you need some support with. And all you have to do is just go to askwylene.com, and that will take you to my calendar, and you can schedule a 15-minute call. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Today's Friday, so we won't be here tomorrow and Sunday. I encourage you to continue your gratitude practice, continue your daily GPS throughout the weekend, and then we will be back together tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thank you.
Monday morning.
Oh, what did I say?
Tomorrow.
Monday. Monday. Thank you, Laura.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Love you.
Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Hey, thanks so much for listening. And I encourage you to tune in every day to the Daily Gratitude Call. And the Daily Gratitude Call happens live every weekday morning. I'd love to have you join. So to find out how to join live, go to my website, wylenebenson.com. Thanks for tuning in.